The Old and New Testament, some verses about God's wrath and tribulation, going into these next few verses. So God's wrath and the tribulation, it's also known as, and we see the time of Jacob's trouble. That's in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Or the Great Tribulation. It's also called Matthew 24, 21. This time is a period of 7 years. And we know that in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. The Antichrist sitting in the temple will occur during this time. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. And then Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. At this time, the archangel Michael will deal out God's wrath. This is the same time. Revelation chapter 13, verses 5 through 7. The beast will be given authority for 3.5 years. This is God's wrath. It's not the world's wrath on the church. Many of those who will say that the tribulation is God's wrath on the church, they look at 2 Thessalonians, they teach 2 Thessalonians, and they do not consider the entirety of Scripture. But when we look at the full context of Scripture, you cannot say that the tribulation is God's wrath on the church or the world's wrath on the church. You can't say that. You cannot say that the 7-year tribulation is the world's wrath on the church. It's not what it is. It's God's wrath. Isaiah chapter 2, verses 6 through 22, specifically verse 12. Joel chapter 1, and then also we saw in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2, the coming and what that looks like. The conclusion from all of this, from a complete biblical examination and context in the 7-year tribulation, is that it is a period of time when God's wrath is poured out upon the earth. And that's marked by it being a great tribulation, that it being his judgment. This is also referred to as Daniel's 70th week. And so what does that mean, Daniel's 70th week? What does it mean, the 70 weeks of Israel's refining? It was God's judgment on the nation of Israel for departing from him, for going away, for not following his commands in the land. And so they went through those 69 weeks, each day representing a year. So they went through those 69 weeks in Babylon. But that 70th week still stands to be fulfilled. So what is the tribulation? What is it? It's not even God's wrath on the world. It's not. The tribulation is God's wrath on Israel for them not believing and for what they did to the Messiah and for what they've done to the church. That is God's pouring out his wrath upon Israel. That last 7-year period of judgment for judging Israel for all they've done. And many have taken this, Hitler being one, and said, oh, I will be. Well, actually, it was the people behind Hitler that said, oh, look, you can do what you want. Because see, it's okay. You can do what you want because look, it's in the Bible. And then Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke against that. And so that's a whole nother story in itself. And so that's what it's marked by, forsaking God. And we see that Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 through 27. The tribulation is not the final judgment, but it is very specifically Israel's 70th week of judgment. God's wrath, the great tribulation. We see that again, Revelation chapter 6, verse 17, Matthew chapter 24, verse 21, Revelation chapter 15, verse 1. So I say all that. This information is also going to come in handy for next week.